Is that your microphone you've attached to your frame?
Yeah, I put it like I usually try to put it down, or I have been trying to put it down here, but my hair is so long that it always is brushing against the microphone and it just makes all kinds of sounds. So I've been working on putting it up here to avoid all the crazy sounds. Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I wanted to say that as I was getting ready to meet with you, I had a phone call shortly before we were set to record, and it was regarding a matter that was just, very mundane but annoying.
Yeah.
and and with my Libra stellium, I care what other people think, and I even though I knew I was in the right, I had this icky feeling about potential conflict. And so I was like, what would Chelsey do in this moment? I'm like, I'm gonna pull up my Spotify playlist and just choose a song. I'm gonna move with it and just let all that clear. And so I can be more present for this and not
Uh,
be in that other dynamic.
and did it work? How do you feel?
It feels good. I have this playlist on Spotify that I've gathered for covers, people who have
Hmm.
covered other people's music.
Hmm.
And it has to be in such a way that it's really different take or maybe even better than the original. And that's really hard to find. But
Hmm.
come up with this playlist and there's this one song, Let It Go, that I don't necessarily usually resonate with, but I was like, this is an energy I just need to shake it off. To use the words of the song. And so,
Yeah.
it did, and it was good. I liked it.
Oh, I
So
love
that kind of
hearing
brings us
that. Do you think you could share that playlist with me?
yeah, I will do that, and then I'll also maybe I'll include it in the links in the show notes for the listeners as well, but at least especially to you, definitely I will send that over.
Mm. Thank you. I'm so excited.
So, this is gonna be episode 89,
Thank
and
you.
I want to
Time.
thank you so much for joining me. For those of you who are just being introduced to our guest, her name is Chelsey Debbs. For those who are new, I'm April Dawn Patterson, and you get to join Chelsey and I as we play in the sandbox today. But welcome, Chelsey.
Thank you, April. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, tell me, what does DRIP stand for? What's the acronym?
So, DRIP stands for Daily Rapture and Inner Peace Practice. And it's funny that you ask specifically what does the acronym stand for, because the last couple of meetings that we've had in our little DRIP instructor community, we've been thinking of other things that it could mean. And DRIP is such a ever evolving practice. It really started in one place and it has kind of slowly inched into newer realms. And so we want drip to always apply. The base core of drip, when it's daily rapture and inner peace practice, is exactly that. It's a daily practice. And in between that is, what can you do to bring about rapturous joy, like unending, crazy high levels of joy and inner peace? How can you regulate your nervous system? And then somewhere in there, there's a whole lot of play, there's a whole lot of presence, there's a whole lot of peace and pleasure, and it all just kind of gets encompassed and gets wrapped in this daily practice. So in between the D and the last P, there's a whole lot of stuff that changes, but for right now, it's daily rapture and inner peace practice.
I will tell you that it sounded a lot like what I had envisioned, at least for my offering that I called, what did I call them? I called them sandbox play dates or something like that. And it's kind of like where we would just be in the moment and we could do some intuitive movement, or we could
Mhm,
do a tarot card draw, or basically just whatever we wanted to do, whatever felt right in the moment.
mhm.
And so when I saw what the acronym meant, I hadn't even participated in this session, but I was like, I need to get certified in this because but that's
There
where
is a
me
training.
I just jump into like that's where I go. If I like something, then I'm all in. I need to find out about it. But then I realized you have to be a yoga certified instructor, right? To
Mm,
be able to
mhm.
qualify. I'm like, yeah, that's not the direction that I'm gonna go, but I can definitely participate via Chelsea's sessions for
Yeah,
uh,
totally.
definitely. So how did you find out about drip and what made you want to get involved and become part of it yourself?
Very similarly to you, when I find something, I was fully into it when I saw it. So Drip came about in 2020. The creator of Drip, her name is Jen Holland, and she is just genuinely a goddess. She was sent here to earth to create this thing and to give it to others. And so in 2020, Jen was experiencing all that we were all experiencing with lockdown, just being disconnected from other people and having to go really internally to heal. And then on top of that, she was going through a really rocky divorce. And in that divorce, she was losing her stepchildren, who she was devoted to being a mother to. And so for Jen, in this practice or in this period of time, it was just really, really hard, right? There was just a lot going on. And she had access to, she'd been a body professional for years and for decades, teaching different workouts and yoga and what is that dance? Oh, what is
Is
it called? Now I
Zumba?
can't think.
Zumba?
Zumba, yes. She was like a Zumba teacher. She was a yoga teacher. She did weightlifting. So she was very body aware. And then she had her own spiritual practice that included breath work and nervous system regulation. And she's got a degree in body science and all this stuff, right? So she had access to all of these tools during this time, and she created this practice and just blended all of these tools together: dance and yoga and breath work and nervous system regulation and self-touch and self-connection. She put it all together and she created this thing, right? And it wasn't even called Drip yet. And then she started posting these clips of her practice on Instagram, and I found it in 2020. I found her and I immediately messaged her and I was like, I need this. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you're doing, but the way you speak, the way you present yourself, the way you move your body, the way you talk about loving yourself, I want that. I really want that. And so she and I had a one-on-one private virtual session because she's up in Utah, and she created a little flow for me, and we talked and we breath worked and we did the thing, and it was like an hour and 15-minute practice. And I was like, this is going to change the world. Like, I need this for myself, but I want this for everyone. And so we decided that in 2021, in early 2021, maybe March or so, I went to Utah and we went to the desert of Utah, and we had like 5 days in the desert. We were camping and we took 5 days. We immersed ourselves into nature. We really dug deep and really talked about divine feminine energy and what that means and what I want to do with that. And she really guided me on that. And we created Drip. She created it and I just kind of helped her nurture it. But this we created a training manual, we created terminology. We spent those days fully immersed in this thing that we were so passionate about. And then it kind of just exploded from there. As soon as I got back to Houston, I immediately started putting together women's circles and goddess gatherings and bringing this practice to people, and it was a hit. And it grew immediately, and it touched so many people, and so many women resonated with this thing. And it's just exactly that, of like, it's a magnet and you get attracted to it and you're like, I don't know what this is, but I know I want it. And then you get into it and you start to feel the shifts. You start to love yourself more. You find yourself slowing down and taking time and breathing. You find yourself more connected with your intuition and listening with not your ears, but listening to your body, listening to what messages you're receiving, and listening to that inner voice and your highest self. And it all just becomes easier. And I feel like it actually happens in a way that you don't even realize it's happening. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, oh, everything is way more delightful all of a sudden. And the world feels better and your life feels better and your body feels better. And it just kind of happens. It's hard to explain. Drip in itself is really challenging to explain for me because it has been so transformational. And so I think I get a little ahead of myself and I pour all of this love and magic into it, and I almost forget to go down to the basics of what it is.
Before we break it down a little bit more, let's do some of the what are usually introductory segments, but I kind of got ahead of myself. I want to give you some time to be able to incorporate the word I'm going to give you for linguistic tag.
Ooh.
In the first segment, it's called Let's Grab a Drink. We pop into a virtual coffee house before hitting the beach. And being the benevolent host that I am, your order's on me. So, what order do you give the barista?
Hmm. When I go into a coffee shop, which is not very often, I often look at the barista and I'm like, I have no idea, and you can't do it wrong. So you just make me something, and I promise I'll like it. And usually they look at me like I'm crazy and they're like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "No, I promise. I won't know if you did it wrong because I don't drink coffee really or tea. So you can make me anything and I'll love it." And then I usually just do that. And then if they really don't want to play that game with me, I'll say make me like a chai tea or something because that's all I know.
Mhm. So are you a water enthusiast?
Very much. Yeah, I pretty much only drink water. I had found this tea, and now I can't remember the name of the brand. Let's see if I have like a little packet somewhere. But I found this tea, and it's a peppermint and lavender tea. It's one of the few teas that I like, and I just drink that. And if I feel called to. And then I'm very, very caffeine sensitive, so I don't really introduce caffeine into my body if I can help it. And so I don't drink coffee or anything like that.
Yeah, all of my coffees have to be decaf. I go that option. Or
Mhm.
sometimes if I do my milk teas with boba, I have to make sure that I drink them early enough in the day, around noon or 1 o'clock, because yeah, anything after that, I know I'm going to be unable to sleep and just
Yeah,
yeah, throw a
and we'll
wrench in everything.
get to bedtime, and I'll just be like, "I'm not tired," and I won't really remember why I'm not tired, but I'll be like, "This is
Yeah.
weird. Why am I not sleepy?" And then just, like, there'll be I used to bartend for forever. I bartended for about 17 years, and so when I was really, really young, like early 20s, we would just chug energy drinks all the time, and my heart would just be going like this in my chest, and I would be like, "I don't feel good. Really know why I don't feel well, but I don't really feel good." And then got older and started being much more considerate to my body and was like, "Oh, that makes sense." Why I
Right.
didn't feel so good.
Well, now that you have your drink, let me ask you about your spotlight moments. Have you had any claims to fame, times that our listeners might have seen you or your work?
No, but I want some spotlight moments. I love that. Well, you can always find me on social media. If you had heard of Drip, you've likely heard of Drip via social media. There is a Drip page on Instagram and on TikTok, and Jen runs that. And so most of the people who I've connected with, and if I didn't meet them face to face and invite them to Drip personally, I regularly am like, "Hey, how did you find me? How did you find us?" And they've usually somehow found Drip, like the page Drip. That's not me or Jen, but it's the actual page. And I think it's just social media doing what social media does. I think it's the algorithm doing its job and bringing people together. But I personally don't have my own podcast. I want one. I've thought about it for a long time. And throughout Houston, I try to get out to Houston and connect with people, but it doesn't always Houston's quite far. I actually live in the suburbs. I live in up north. So I hang out this way.
Mhm. Yeah, people hear Houston and it's just a giant city. And for those people who, like me, don't really like to get out of their comfort zone or No one loves traffic that I know of. If it's more than 20 minutes away, it's like I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I just end up
I tell people I'm a
staying.
hard maybe all the time.
Yeah.
If it's outside of the suburbs, I'm usually a hard maybe. I'm like, I really want to go, but the circumstances leading up to getting to the thing might stop me from going.
Well, that can make sense about the social media, like you said, doing its thing, because I'll tell listeners this is the first time that you and I are meeting face to
Mhm,
face, even via Zoom. Before that, it was just me finding you on social media, getting on your newsletter, and
mhm,
then watching the recording that I requested of a drip session
mhm.
that you did, that you were offering for free at the time. And so yeah, it's nice to meet you, Chelsea.
Nice to meet you. I would love to hear about your experience with drip and what your thoughts were when you opened the recording and you saw what it was.
Yeah, okay. Let me give you your word and then we can jump into that. So guests are asked to choose a word or phrase that they would like to hear used more often in everyday conversations. So something that
Mhm.
doesn't get enough play or enough airtime. And the prior guest chose mycelium. So you are tasked,
Mycelium.
yes. So you are tasked to try and fit that somehow into our conversation today.
Okay.
Now,
Can I
yeah,
ask? Because I think I know what mycelium is, but it's like the connective network of fungi, right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
she had been big into foods that didn't cause inflammation. And then she started deepening that into exploring foods that actively fought against inflammation instead of just not causing it, like fighting it. And
Mhm,
so she was getting into the mushroom coffees and things
mhm.
like that to help. So she chose the word mycelium. And now you get to choose a word for the next guest to dance
Okay.
with. And it could be a peculiar word that you find funny or just something that's resonating with you. So, what are you laying down for the next guest to pick up?
So I thought of so many words. Mm, I thought of so many words, and I think I'm gonna stick with divine feminine. I was gonna say no, we'll stick with divine feminine. Do I tell you my why or just because?
Oh, you definitely can. Sure. Yes.
So in 2021, when I found drip, I just fully immersed myself in it and I was very committed to my divine feminine energy, to researching what that meant, and also then looking into it, reading about divine feminine energy, divine feminine awakening, what that means, what that looks like, what other people were saying about that. And then I really took the time to consider what it means to me. What is my divine feminine energy? How do I embody that? And in 2021, I just had the best year. I had such a good year. It was so transformative. So much changed for me and so much growth and so much love and so much connection. And I was just trying new things all the time. I was putting out new offerings all the time. I was creating with others, partnering, collaborating. I was really putting myself out there. And I think back on that and I look into that time and I think I felt really good. I had a really good feeling about myself. I felt in alignment. In the past, I have had struggles with depression and anxiety and social anxiety and in that year I think about it and I really feel like I even said the words, I think I've healed from my anxiety. I think I've healed from my depression. I just don't feel these feelings anymore. And then end of 2021 going into 2022, some really strange shifts happen and life happens and I really stepped away from that energy and I had to focus on some other things. Life just happens, you know, and I hadn't put the effort and energy into balance just yet. I was so focused on my divine feminine that then when I had to tap into some masculine energy, I just went shoo, full pendulum swing the other way. And it was really uncomfortable. And I had this huge discomfort in me. And then 2022 was quite challenging. 2023 was the tipping point for me. And end of 2023, middle 2023, end of 2023, I realized what it was. This out of alignment feeling. Just making decisions that were fully out of alignment and behaving in a way that was fully out of alignment. And divine feminine just kept popping into my heart and into my mind, like, you've forgotten this piece of yourself, you've forgotten your softness, you've forgotten how to slow down, you've forgotten that there's strength in your knowing, your inner knowing. I wasn't listening to that, and I was even discounting it, and came into this odd place of imposter syndrome and all these feelings that we feel of self-doubt that are so natural and normal. I just had been having this experience of not feeling those things and feeling really confident and powerful. And so I think it's important now for myself to remember that, and to find now a deep balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. But I do think there's a lot that needs to be said specifically about divine feminine. So I think that that needs to be talked about more. And then it's different for everyone. It has similarities, but I think if more people talk about what is the divine feminine energy within them and how does that get embodied, then I think then we create space for that softness and that slowness and that silliness. And then if we can partner that with the structure and strength of divine masculine, I think that we would just find such clarity and balance and joy. And I think that's a real big piece of what's missing for all of us. And so divine feminine is my word. And the next person to use it, I'll be intrigued to see how they use it, how that comes out.
So I know that we're already kind of getting close to our hard stop. So
Mm.
let me go ahead and do the final segments and then we'll see how much time, if any, we have left.
Let's
So,
go.
okay. You kind of already touched on this, but how can people find out more about you and follow what you're making in your own sandbox?
I love this so much. I love this language so much. It's so fun. Um, I would really invite and encourage people to join my email list, to go to my website, Debs and Flow, DEBBSANDFLOW.com. And that's where I'm going to be. I have a blog. I put out emails with event updates. I create events regularly just from my heart. It kind of changes where they go. I am a yoga teacher and a drip instructor and a retreat facilitator. I do all kinds of things, and the events and the ideas, they just come to me, and I kind of just put it out there. And I know social media is really important and it works for sure. And I find that it can be quite exhausting for me personally. So I try my hardest to be regularly on social media and to connect with people there. But I think the best place that you could find me and my offerings is via my email list. So going to my website, signing up for the emails, and then messaging me privately, of course, is always a great way. I mean, you can find my contact information on the website. You can always email me privately. Come to my events. That's a great way to get to know me and to understand where I come from. And then social media every now and then. I'm really stepping away from all of it. The social media aspect, I very much looking forward to the day when I can pay someone to manage all of that for me.
Hmm. Well, I love how in the Lifestylist podcast, Luke Story used to, if he still doesn't, I'm not sure. He used to end his pods asking his guests this question, and I just thought it was so amazing that I included in all of my podcasts. Who have been three teachers or teachings in your life that you might share with our audience that they could go research and also learn from?
I wrote these down. I wrote two down, and then the third one I have to think a little bit more on, but one for sure, teachers, is Jen Holland. Jen Holland, you can find her on all social media. If you go to her website, strongandsultry.com, she is the catalyst for my awakening, for my divine feminine awakening. She's the catalyst for DRIPP. I genuinely love her. I look up to her. She is my mentor. She is a trusted friend, a guide. She is unlike any person you will ever meet. The way she thinks, speaks, behaves, guides others, leads herself, her language, she's so powerful with her words. And I just truly look up to her so much. She's a real life person to me. I've met her. Gotten to love her and hold her and then be in front of her and witness her, and it's unlike having a famous person, it's unlike having that where you idolize them, but there's such a degree of separation between you and these people where they start being put up on pedestals and
Right.
they stop being like real people. Jen is a real person. She is someone that I genuinely love, and I think she is going to change the world. I think the more people she gets to speak to, the more she will ignite this same kind of awakening in others. And her mission is the same as mine. I mean, we want people to love themselves. We want all people to love themselves, and leading from that, I all I can do is what I can do for myself and then be the best example that I can be for others, and that's Jen. And Jen is a huge example of how she cares for herself. I witness and love that, and how she speaks to others and speaks for herself. I witness and love that. And so Jen Holland is definitely top number one person. I will tell people all the time, go find her, go listen to what she has to say. She's a very different person, and she's very special to me and to the world. And then another person, my second person, I think that will change the world, is currently changing the world. Her name is Regena Thomashauer. She is the author of the book. It's called Pussy, a Reclamation. It's the name of the book. Regena Thomashauer, she goes by Mama Gina. She has created the School for Womanly Arts. It is in like Brooklyn, New York, I think. And that book, Pussy, a Reclamation, it is myself and all of the women in my circle who are doing this healing work. We will recommend that book, number one, for all women. I think all people, but specifically if you identify as a woman and you feel as though you are walking through the world having a female experience, this book will just set you on a trajectory of self-love and self-empowerment, and it will change everything. And I think it does a lot to eliminate the taboo that we somehow, or however we got here in this society of like not saying the names for our body parts and not being empowered when we speak to others. She's a lot of exercises in that book that I use in my coaching practice with my coaching clients. It's just all about self-love and self-acceptance and loving being a woman and what it means to tap into your divine femininity and what it means to crack open and unleash your vulnerability. And so I would highly recommend Mama Gina, the book Pussy, to literally everyone. I think it's really, really important. And then third, this is interesting because then after that, after those two people, I'm looking at my bookshelf and I'm like, all of these stick out to me as important. I think the one other text that I could really, really pinpoint for my spiritual awakening and just my understanding of what I actually believe in, like kind of cultivating my own true beliefs, is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's so easy to read. It's a really small book, so to read it is really easy. And then I found it was really easy for me to grasp the idea and the concepts of the four agreements. One being, don't take anything personally. Two being, be impeccable with your word. Three being, always do your best. And four being, are you familiar with the four agreements?
You're not the first person to recommend this book. And so I've read it, and at the moment, I can't recall what the fourth one
I
is.
can't either.
I'm looking
The
at my
four,
bookshelf too. Hold on.
I'm like, where is it? Is it gonna pop up at me? I can't see it on my bookshelf. Oh well. But I think it's really important because specifically always do your best really resonated with me because it reminds you that your best doesn't mean do the exact same as yesterday. Your best is different today than it was yesterday. And I think there's something very divinely feminine about that softness and that grace to give yourself to know that when you woke up today, 100% today doesn't look like 100% yesterday. And if the best you can do is 75%, then do 75% and that's your best. And that's okay. You're doing 100% of your best by doing 75%. I know maybe I'm not saying it right, but it just really resonated with me as it gives you so much grace. And when I talk with women specifically, because our cycles as women are different, our energetic cycles are different. We wake up every day with a new amount of energy versus men who are living a male experience. They have a 24-hour energy cycle every day. They wake up and they have the same day every day, 24 hours. Women, we wake up, we have a year, we live a year in a month. So from the first of the month to the last of the month, we go through summer, winter, spring, fall, or that, summer, spring, winter, fall over and over and over again. And so we're experiencing these births and deaths all month long, all year long, and we can't possibly show up. It's just not possible for us to show up today with the same energy that we did yesterday because our energy isn't the same. And so learning that about the female cycle and the energy cycle, learning that about our 28 to 40 day cycles, and learning these differences in why life is so different for us is it gives you so much grace. And so I felt that in the Four Agreements. I felt that grace in Pussy by Regena Thomashauer. And then I really felt that from Jen. And I think those lessons really provided me a lot of inner peace, and they really provided me a lot of uh space for love, because I think we all can just be really mean to ourselves, and we hold ourselves to this really wildly unattainable picture of the perfect human, and we just can't be that. And I mean, some people can, and some people are really high achieving, and I think that's wonderful. And I want to live a life of softness, and I want to live a life of ease and fun and joy and play. And these people kind of gave me that permission, coming from this really harsh hustle culture and then coming
Right.
into this like deep rest. So those are the three people that right now they sit really highly on my shelf of like, yes, look up these people for sure.
Well, for the listeners who were yelling at their phone or their car, wherever they were listening to us talk, and they had the fourth one, the four agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do
Ah,
your best.
don't make assumptions. That's a really good one. Yes. Yes, I think those are all great. I was gifted that book right before COVID lockdown. I was gifted that book by a friend when I was waitressing. She was the hostess at the restaurant that I worked at, and I don't really have a deep relationship with this person, but she saw something in me and she was like, "I think you would really like this. Have it." And so she gifted me this book, and it just instantly resonated, and I think it really kicked off my own personal awakening, my own personal like journey. And then I immediately got certified as a yoga teacher, and then I immediately started putting myself out there, and then life immediately started changing. So highly recommend.
Well, Chelsea, I do want to be very respectful of your time boundaries. Was it a 12:47 hard stop?
Yes, we can totally have a little closing if you would like, but then yes.
Okay. So we kind
Oh,
of got everything out of the way that was mandatory. So I guess I'll just kind of riff off what you were saying about people not being perfect and having that softness and that grace, and just tying that into my experience of the drip recording. So it was really cool in that I got to see you as a creator going through an imperfect recording. Is that is that okay to say that?
totally. 100%. I will own my imperfection. So
No,
I'm glad
and
you
I
liked it.
I loved that because it then gave me the permission to be able to play and give myself grace, because you kind of stopped and be like, this is not how it was in my head. And you were like, kind of playing with it until you got the hang of what it was that you had envisioned.
Mhm,
And it was lovely just to be able to see that process of self grace
mhm,
and exploration and creativity at play without there having to be this critic that came in
mhm,
too soon and like a fire, snuff it out. You were giving it time and space to blossom. And one of my favorite words here lately is unfold, um,
mm,
which I think is another divine feminine word that I'm trying to
mm,
lean into is unfold. Because I
definitely.
have a lot of masculine energy in my chart, and I'm tired of trying to make things work,
Yeah.
make it happen. And I just keep coming across this brick wall and just taking a step back and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to pursue the things that make me happy and
Mm,
let the universe take, put the weight of making things happen on the universe's shoulders and just letting life unfold and letting the possibilities and opportunities unfold because it's not happening with me making it happen. So yeah, and during the recording, you were like, I may end up just editing this out. I don't know yet. And I'm glad you didn't because you allowed me to see. Because otherwise, I would have just had this impression that, like a lot of
mhm,
other people, that it's this finished product right out of the
mhm.
gate. And I wouldn't have been able to see that. It wouldn't have been a learning experience for me in that particular aspect. And I know that's not even touching on what drip is and or involves, but I
But it is. Like, you just said it so perfectly, and I'm so grateful that you said that because there's this idea when I try so hard to get content of other people doing drip, which is challenging because it is very personal practice, but I want other people to see not me doing it because obviously my body has gotten used to doing some of these things, so it's like you have this expectation of perfection and it just genuinely doesn't exist, and you just made my heart so happy by, like by knowing that and seeing that and appreciating that because that is actually what drip is, like, that play process of me being like, you're right, I could have snuffed it out. I could have just totally been like, "Ugh, never mind." I could have pressed pause on the recording, figured it out, and then come back and presented it perfectly. But, like, what's the good in that? Who is that I don't think that's helping anyone. And I think me showing up imperfect all the time and just being like, "I'm just a person. I'm just a
Mhm.
human trying to be the best human that I can be." That's the only way I want to show up. And it makes it oh god, you just fed my soul so much by seeing that and receiving that and enjoying that because that is drip. Like, forget the other stuff, forget the sexiness, forget the whatever. It's that moment where you say, "Oh, I don't have to be perfect." And then you just move on
Mhm.
from there, from this place of radical self-acceptance. I don't have to be perfect. And then everything is so much better.
And on that, I think that's the perfect note on which to end the podcast. And I just want to thank you so much again for joining me and playing with me in the sandbox. And I hope it's not our last time. And I'm sure our paths will cross again.
I'm so grateful to you, April. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your patience and this face. I'm sorry, this dog
That's
face.
okay. I love
Um,
dogs. So.
I really appreciate you so much. I really hope we can do this again on a day where I don't overextend myself. But I appreciate your grace very much, and you're just so lovely. And I hope we get to meet in person. But if we get to do this again, then this is perfect too.
All right. Well, much love to you, Chelsea. Bye.
Thank you, April. Bye.